switch on your camera and see if you can share your screen now.
Okay, ma'am.
Good morning to all. In today's presentation, we are going to throw some light on the topic power of crisis. In our group, there are 3 members, Dheeraj, Manya, and me. So my friends,
switch on your camera because anyhow you're not sharing your screen.
So my friend, I am going to discuss the topic. So my friend, I'm now going to discuss the chapter 6. Let's begin. There's slide.
Hold on, Rishabh. देखिए कुछ ऑनलाइन एटिकेट सब ऑनलाइन प्रेजेंटेशन इज वेरी मच नॉर्मल, ठीक है। ये आप किस तरीके से कैमरा को प्लेस कर रहे हैं ये सब भी चीज देखा जाता है, ठीक है। तो लाइट आपके पीछे से आ रहा है, आपका फेस दिख ही नहीं रहा। तो जब आप ऑनलाइन इंटरव्यू भी फेस करेंगे तो ये सारे चीजों का ध्यान रखिएगा, ये सब नॉर्मल चीज नहीं है। लाइक आपका कैमरा मूव नहीं करे, ठीक है, सही तरीके से एक स्टैटिक जगह कहीं पे प्लेस हो, फेस पे कैमरा लाइट आए, ठीक है, पीछे से लाइट ना आए, ये सारे चीजों का भी आप ध्यान रखिए, क्योंकि अब बहुत सारी कंपनी ऑनलाइन इंटरव्यू भी लेती है, तो ये सब चेक किया जाएगा। ऑलराइट, so present now.
Power of crisis. In this chapter, Charles Duhigg discuss how inadvertent routine among organization and firm leads to poor choices and destructive habit. The 2 case studies provided in this chapter resulted in costly and evenly deadly consequences at Rhode Island Hospital and London Underground's King's Cross subway station. Both examples shed light on the way in which effective communication, unwritten process, and policies behavior contribute to inadvertent habit formation. Organization habit needs to form a truce between different parties to be effective. Rhode Island Hospital nurse had no power or equal floating with doctors. Doctor arrogance and nurses' inability to say anything to stop procedure causes many surgeries where the wrong side was operated on. 186-year-old man died. The hospital habits were not organized around the keystone. They had just emerged naturally among the workforce. That's all. Dheeraj.
It should be that's all, Dheeraj. Now passing to you, or Dheeraj will be presenting the next slide.
Okay. An evolutionary theory of economic change, published in 1982 by Nelson and Winter, was incredibly successful in the business world. Much of farm behavior is best understood as a reflection of general habits and strategies orientations, coming from the farm's past rather than the result of a detailed survey of the remote wings of the decision trees. Basically, it may seem like organization may rational choice based on deliberate decision making, but that's not true. Rather, organization habit drive farms, and they emerge from thousands of independent employees' decisions. These organization habits are called routines by N and W and are vital to getting anything done. Workers don't have to ask for permission on every single things. Companies are battlefield of a civil war. Department heads, individual employees, etc., all compete for prestige in power and operate partially on fear. Self-interest plays into everything. However, most companies operate peacefully due to truces. Its basis game theory. Sacrifice a bit of your self-interest to keep things running smoothly. Try to bolster your own department instead of subordinating others. Otherwise, everyone will gang up on you. If every salesperson offered huge discount, the company won't tank. So they compromise to limit discount. Even though each individual salesperson would like to give tons of them to rake up sales for themselves. Rhodes Island Hospital don't have a good truth because nurse had no power. Now I'd like to call Manya Chandra to continue the further presentation.
Thank you. Now next we have King's Cross station fire. Totally preventable, but so many habits had emerged to keep everyone focused only on their department and not stepping on toes. Nobody was actually in charge of keeping people safe. The fire was not reported until too late and 31 people died. A crisis or perceived crisis can be the event that gets previously stubborn people to change. A crisis can help people to see that certain things need a rebalancing of power in order for safety or other crucial things to be taken care of. Rhode Island Hospital's media frenzy was the crisis that the administration was able to use to enact change. Now, nurses are empowered and the hospital is very safe. Desmond Fennell was assigned to investigate the King's Cross fire. So many department heads wouldn't budge on proposed changes, so he created a media frenzy out of it as well. It worked, the leadership was fired, new laws were passed, and now King's Cross has much better safety procedures. You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. Ram Emanuel, Obama's Chief of Staff 2008. Thank you. That's all from us.
So what do you have understood from this chapter? Able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So what have you understood from this chapter? What message you got from this?
In this, according to me, we have learned that habit is very important to build.
Habit is very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, yes, Manya, say.
Yes, ma'am. And there were so many uncertain things happened because of the distribution of power or because of the lack of concern. Doctors was very stubborn. That's why many people died, and there were no power in the hands of nurse. That's why patients faces many problems. So
There was also lack of management, ma'am, because of that.
These were the
Many
problems. These were the problem. But what was the final outcome?
ma'am, organization should distribute the powers equally, or maybe they should give the power at least
The
to
title itself explains the power of crisis. That was the title. Okay, it is basically talking about the power of crisis, mean to say when any organization faces any type of crisis that leads to सक्सेस ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. यानी एक बार किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में क्राइसिस हो जाती है, उनसे वो लोग लेसन लेते हैं, सीखते हैं और फिर उसमें इंप्रूवमेंट लाते हैं. आपने पहला केस रॉड आइलैंड का लिया, ठीक है. तो रॉड आइलैंड में क्या था, नर्सेज और डॉक्टर्स के बीच में बाउंडिंग नहीं था. नर्सेज कई बार चेक करती थी कि आप गलत जा रहे हैं, डॉक्टर्स गलत जा रहे हैं, बट डॉक्टर्स चूंकि वो सीनियर होते हैं तो दे वर नॉट ट्रीटिंग देम एज दैट, कि वो इवन एडवाइस देने लायक है भी, ठीक है, उनका एडवाइस नहीं लेते हैं, राइट. नतीजा क्या हुआ, डिजास्टर्स वे फॉलोइंग इन दैट हॉस्पिटल. आपने देखा कि ऑपरेशन करने के लिए आ रहा था किसी और चीज का, ऑपरेशन हो रहा था किसी और चीज का, ठीक है. प्रॉब्लम था लेफ्ट ब्रेन में या लेफ्ट साइड ऑफ द स्कल में, और ऑपरेशन हो गया आपके राइट साइड ऑफ द स्कल का, ठीक है. फिंगर का ऑपरेशन करवाना था, हो गया टॉन्सिल का, ठीक है. इस टाइप का इंसिडेंट आप देखिए उस हॉस्पिटल में हुआ, ठीक है. बाद में जब मीडिया पर्सन्स वगैरह फॉलो करने लगे, उसके बाद फिर उनका सिचुएशन सुधरा, वो लोग काफी केयरफुल हो गए और फिर धीरे धीरे डॉक्टर्स नर्स का बात सुनना शुरू किए. ये इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ रॉड आइलैंड में, ठीक है. आपने देखा कि क्राइसिस के बाद ही किसी पर्टिकुलर कंपनी में फिर से बेहतर हो पाता है. इसे आप प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में कोई ऐसा कंपेयर कर सकते हैं आप किसी का, किसी कंपनी का? कोई लाइव एग्जाम्पल? रिजर्व, यू आर नॉट टेलिंग एनीथिंग, आप भी पार्टिसिपेट करिए।
यस मैम।
कोई लाइव एग्जाम्पल किसी कंपनी का आप बता सकते हैं जो पहले थी, मतलब समझिए पहले बहुत खराब पोजीशन था और देन इट बिकम टू वन ऑफ द लीडर ऑफ द कंपनी।
Ma'am, we can take the example of Airtel because when Jio came into the market, then Airtel, the market of Airtel was down, and then they made some strategy, and then they are now in the competition of Jio. They are with the competition.
अब फिर भी now still Jio is only leading. If you are comparing from
Yes,
Jio
ma'am.
and Airtel, still Jio is only leading. You can also take the example of Paytm. पेटीएम जब इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ था वो बहुत ही ज्यादा समझिए सक्सेसफुल था नहीं वो, ठीक है, लेकिन अब देखिए पेटीएम हर एक के मोबाइल में इंस्टॉल होगा। यस, तो उनके साथ भी कुछ नेगेटिव हुआ, फिर वो अपलिफ्ट हुआ। लाइक तो इस चैप्टर में आपको यही चीज देखने को मिलेगा कि किस तरीके से कोई भी कंपनी क्राइसिस को फेस करके फिर सीख लेती है। सेकेंड सिनेरियो आपने डिस्कशन किया लंदन अंडरग्राउंड का, ठीक है, उससे क्या सीखे आप, क्या था उस इंसिडेंट में? Have you three really gone through the chapters? या फिर मैंने जो ब्रीफ किया था आपको पहले बस उसी की बेसिस पे आपने प्रेजेंटेशन किया? Have you gone through the chapters? चैप्टर रीड किया या फिर वही कुकू एफएम या फिर यूट्यूब से आपने किया है?
नहीं मैम, उसका स्टोरी हम लोग मतलब हम लोग देख लिए थे मैम की समरी उसका।
क्या क्या समरी आपने देखा था यूट्यूब पे?
नहीं मैम, एक साइट से हम लोगों ने देखा था उसका समरी, उसका उसको पढ़ा था हम लोगों ने।
यानी आप रीड आउट नहीं किए चैप्टर को?
उसका समरी को हम लोग को रिपीट किया।
समझ रहा है हम लोगों को चैप्टर्स
नहीं, just my question is, have you gone through the chapter? Have you read that chapter?
No ma'am.
बता रहे हैं आपका आंसर इतना डिले हो रहा है, मतलब आपने चैप्टर नहीं पढ़ा। See, my main motive is to inculcate reading habit in you. ठीक है, आप चैप्टर पढ़िए, वो जो आपको मिलेगा ना, वो नॉलेज जो मिलेगा आपको, वो आपको कोई शॉर्ट समरी या कोई कुकू एफएम या कुछ नहीं दे पाएगा। अभी आप प्रेजेंट किए है ना, अब यही चीज आप टाइम निकाल के पढ़िए, सी द डिफरेंस। ठीक है, बुक इंट्रोड्यूस करने का मतलब क्या है? बुक का मेरा मेन इंटेंशन है कि आपको थोड़ा रीडिंग हैबिट लगे, आपको इतना लत लग जाए रीडिंग का कि ये बुक खत्म होते के साथ ही आपको लगे कि और इसके बराबर का और कौन कौन बुक है कंपैरिजन में, इस टाइप का और कौन कौन सा बुक है। ठीक है, ये आपके प्रोफेशनल लाइफ को भी बहुत अच्छा करेगा। रीड आउट, डोंट फाइंड आउट सम शॉर्टकट। ठीक है, ऑब्वियसली ये आपके लिए बेनिफिशियल है, इसीलिए आपके रूटीन में इसको डाला गया है, राइट? तो शॉर्टकट मत अप्लाई करिए, नहीं फायदा होगा। ठीक है, समरी कुकू एफएम मैं सजेस्ट नहीं करूंगी।
राइट, मैंने ट्राई किया था रीड करने का, पर उसमें इतने हार्ड वर्ड्स है कि
इसीलिए मैं पहले
छूट जा रहा है चीज।
हाँ धीरज, इसीलिए मैं पहले ब्रीफ कर देती हूँ। लास्ट क्लास में भी मैंने आप ब्रीफ किया था, लेकिन लास्ट क्लास में आप लोग प्रेजेंट नहीं थे, जबकि लास्ट ही क्लास में आप लोगों को प्रेजेंटेशन देना था। तो लास्ट क्लास में सारा ब्रीफ की हूँ मैं, चैप्टर 6 ब्रीफ की हूँ कि क्या है, जस्ट क्या क्या सिनेरियो, ये सारा मैंने कहा था। सलोनी यू वर प्रेजेंट, प्रशांत प्रेजेंट था, पूछिए इन लोगों से। चैप्टर 6 भी मैं ब्रीफ कर चुकी थी, चैप्टर 7 सलोनी का था, सलोनी पूछी ब्रीफ करने में, चैप्टर 7 भी ब्रीफ की हूँ। ठीक है, ताकि आप जब पढ़ें तो आपको थोड़ा क्लियरिटी हो। और हार्ड वर्ड जो मिल रहा है ना, वो भी अगेन आपके लिए लर्निंग है। वही हार्ड वर्ड आपको वहां नहीं मिलेगा जहां से आप समरी उठाए हैं। तो वो कैब कैसे बिल्ड होगा? यही आप रीडिंग करिए, वो कैब बिल्ड होगा। अंडरलाइन करके रखिए, बुक आपके पास रहेगा। कभी कुछ हुआ, मन नहीं लग रहा है, बुक पलटा के देख लिए कहाँ कहाँ अंडरलाइन है, कौन कौन सा नया वर्ड हम सीखे, कौन सा वर्ड हम यूज कर सकते हैं अपने डेली लाइफ में। ठीक है, तो वो कैब बिल्ड होगा, रीडिंग हैबिट डेवलप होगा। ठीक है, हर बुक कुछ सिखाता है, ये मोटिवेशनल बुक है। ठीक है, ये समझिए कि आप राइटर के बारे में पढ़े हैं। राइटर के बारे में मैं फर्स्ट क्लास में बताई थी, ये न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का सबसे बेस्ट सेलर है। पावर ऑफ हैबिट जैसी बुक है, वैसी बुक अब तक हैबिट के ऊपर नहीं बनी हुई है। ठीक है, हर एक चैप्टर बहुत ज्यादा इंस्पिरेशनल है। सो आई सजेस्ट यू टू गो थ्रू द चैप्टर। एक बार रीड आउट करिए, फिर नेक्स्ट क्लास में आप देखिए आपका लेवल ऑफ डिस्कशन ही डिफरेंट होगा। ठीक है, शांत दिमाग से पढ़िए, एक ही दिन में पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। वैसे भी आपको बहुत टाइम मिला था। कितना टाइम मिला था आपको? बीच में क्या हुआ? बीच में आप लोगों का एग्जाम्स था, वर्कशॉप था, इतना गैप मिला आप लोगों को पढ़ने के लिए। बहुत सफिशिएंट टाइम था, मोर देन सफिशिएंट। अभी भी आप लोगों का डिजिटल मार्केटिंग शुरू होने वाला है, अभी भी सफिशिएंट टाइम मिलने वाला है। सो गो थ्रू द चैप्टर, तो ही आपको फायदा मिलेगा। ठीक है, तब देखिए नेक्स्ट क्लास में आपका जो डिस्कशन का लेवल होगा ना, वो अलग लेवल होगा। ठीक है, आप उसके ऊपर बात करेंगे, उसके ऊपर डिस्कशन करेंगे, आपका कंटेंट बहुत ज्यादा होगा बात करने के लिए। अभी मैं एक क्वेश्चन पूछी, यू वे जस्ट ऑल द थ्री ऑफ यू वे पाउस्ड। सब लोग क्या बहुत बहुत लंबा गैप था, राइट? आपको वर्ड्स नहीं मिल पा रहा था। रीजन कि आपने शॉर्टकट रास्ता अप्लाई किया है ना। तो एक
Yes,
बार
sir.
आप रीड आउट करिए तो कंटेंट का समझिए, मतलब कमी नहीं होगा आपके पास बोलने के लिए। ठीक है, बहुत कुछ होगा बात करने के लिए। तो गो थ्रू दैट and tell me next class, right?
Okay, ma'am.
And next presentation, Saloni,
Yes, ma'am.
are you ready today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You sharing the screen?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, allow me to share screen.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Permission is already given. Thank you.
Anamika? Yes. Ma'am, may I start?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Today we
Hold down, hold down. Place your mobile horizontally.
yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Today we, Anamika, Niharika, and Saloni are going to give a presentation on how Target knows what you want before you do. So before moving towards the slide, let us know something about Target. Target is basically a general merchandise retailer. It operates over 1,800 locations in the US. It maintains a demographic profile for every customer so that it tracks anything they purchased in Target. Now here we will get to know about Andrew Cole, who was an economical statistician, and how he used data to manipulate customers. Just after the electric statistician, Andrew Cole started working at Target. He was tasked with building a model To figure out if customers are pregnant, he had spent 6 years analyzing greeting card sales for Hallmark before working for Target, which collected vast amounts of data about their consumers' buying habits. From their purchases, Cole learned about shoppers' lifestyles, families, and interests. Pregnant women were great customers because they subsequently turned into new parents who moved who would often buy everything they needed for their children in one place. Trying to figure out if customers were pregnant was an interesting challenge for Cole, but he eventually showed how surveilling customers can be dangerous. Next slide. For a long time, retailers like Target were more likely to hire psychologists than analysts. By learning about consumer psychology, they learned to change the placements of products and increase sales. These days, though they try to target individual shoppers, studies have shown that people's unique habits drive the way they shop. In fact, habit determines what people buy even more than what's on the grocery list. To understand these habits, Target started collecting data about its consumers and linking their activity to a guest ID number. It also began purchasing other data about them, including ages, addresses, ethnicities, and brand preferences. Next slide. Target started using this data to guess what a customer buys habitually, then send them ads and coupons for those items at Target. Virtually all major American retailers use the same tactic, but Target is one of the most successful, largely due to its talented analysts like Andrew Cole. In the 1980s, the professor Alan Anderson discovered that shoppers tend to change their habits like by switching brands in response to major life events like moving, getting a new job, or most importantly, having a baby. This is why pregnant women are gold mines for Target. Their shopping habits are flexible. They have to buy dollars of items for their babies, and once they go to Target, it's easy for them to start purchasing everything else there too. Now I would like to call Niharika for further presentation.
Thank you, Namika. Company even make to new mothers by giving them free samples in hospitals. But Target wanted to push things even further by getting two couples before they had babies. That's where Andrew Cole come in. He analyzed that from the Target baby shower registry to determine what women bought during pregnancy. For instance, he found that women tended to buy lots of lotion during their second trimester and based 100,000 targets customers vitamins during the first half of their pregnancy. Now he put together a list of 25 products that allowed Target to predict if a woman was pregnant and if so, when she was due. Based on this list, he found several hundred thousands gate customers who were probably pregnant. Sending them ads would be hugely lucrative. Now, but advertising to these women could also be dangerous because they did not know that Target knew so much about them. One minister man angrily complained that Target was sending his teenage daughter coupons for baby items, only to find out a couple days later that she was pregnant. Therefore, Andrew Cole had to figure out how to get ads to pregnant women without them knowing they were being targeted. Now, in 2013, Arista Records started promoting Outkast's Jenny Bending songs here. The company was using a new algorithm that focused a song properly based on factors like its tempo and melody. Now these algorithms were more reliable than industry experts' predictions, and they suggested that Heya would be a massive hit, but radio listeners hated it. A third of them immediately changed the station when it came on. Arista Records wondered if they could do anything to make the song into a hit. Thanks. Now the radio station manager, Rich Mayer, has been analyzing the most popular radio songs around the country and publishing each finding in a new newsletter since the 1918. In the early 2000s, he started wondering what made some songs strictly, meaning the listeners using listen to them all the way through. Some strictly songs were by popular artists like Beyonce, but others were best and forgettable, and others were by artists that many listeners disliked, like Celine Dion. Now call to Saloni.
Ma'am, may I start?
Yes.
So Richmond concluded that the sticky songs sound more familiar than other songs. In other words, they are closer to the average of their genre. So they sound like what the brain expects to hear on the radio. In fact, the part of the brain that processes music tends to seek out patterns and familiarity. This prevents music from overwhelming the brain or distracting the listeners. This explains why people habitually listen through familiar sounding Celine Dion songs on the radio while they turn off unfamiliar sounding ones like Hey Ya. Artista Records getting listeners to like Hey Ya is like Target trying to send pregnant women ads without them knowing that Target is spying on them. This key is to make the unfamiliar seems familiar. Now, what it defines is, this can also be explained by the habit loop or familiarity loop. The clue, something called the reminder. The clue is the trigger that kicks off the habitual behavior. The routine, second one, the routine refers to the habit or repeated behavior. And lastly, the reward. When it comes to habit, reward, it refers to what the behavior does for you. Charles came up with this habit loop, or we can say the familiarity loop. In his book, The Power of Habit, introduces a concept called a habit loop. He breaks this into 3 steps: the clue that triggers for the automatic behavior to start something, and second one, routine, the behavior itself, and third, the reward. Andrew Paul also followed the same formula with his algorithm to predict pregnancy among target customers. His department learned that pregnant women wouldn't get offered if Target mixed together coupons for baby items and random coupons for items that pregnant women wouldn't buy. Essentially, Target distinguished or what it knew about its customer, and it skyrocketed in the mom and baby section. Organ meal, like in America during World War II, they gave away all their meat, and then the stock was empty for their home only. And Heya song and Target's ad shows that if you dress a new something in the old habit, it's easier for the public to accept it. The lesson also applies to lifestyle change. For instance, the YMCA
hired researchers to boost membership retention rate by analyzing don't keep coming back because of high quality facilities, but rather because their emotional connection with the gym. So the YMCA trained their employees to remember customers' name. Soon, so this chapter is completely based on familiarity or loop habits. Hence, we conclude that the familiarity loop describes a process by which marketing expert sandwich a new unknown product between two familiar products. The human brain craves familiarity. One example, Dougie provide that the butchers attempting to sell organ meats to American consumers during World War II, when consumers could not easily access choice cut of meat. When these organ meat were churned and encased and packaged into something familiar, Americans learned to eat them because they appeared familiar to them. As Dungy explains, whether selling a new song, a new food, or even a new crib, the lesson is the same. If you dress a new something in old habits, it's easier for the public to accept it. Dungy's description of the book's major theme, which is the skill with which cooperation plays on human behavior to market consumers or customers' goods. The familiarity loop is one tactic among many that marketing experts use to catch the eye of the buyers. At last, change might not be easy and isn't always easy, but with the time and effort, almost any habit could be reshaped or changed. And obviously, changing some habits, actually bad habits, can be more difficult, but this framework is a place to start something. Change change also take long time. Sometimes it requires repeated experiment and failure, but once you understand how a habit operates, once you diagnose the clue, the routine and reward, you gain the power over it. Thank you.
So,
Yes,
who were two participants, Anamika and Niharika.
Yes, ma'am.
Anamika and Niharika, have you gone through the chapter? सारा मेहनत मतलब पीपीटी वगैरह आप बनाए खुद से?
Yes, ma'am. हम तीनों मिलके बनाए.
तीनों मिलके बनाए हैं.
Yes, ma'am.
और रीड आउट कौन कर रहा था? Obviously, you were explaining something beyond that PPT, but बाकी दोनों तो सिर्फ रीड आउट किए हैं लाइन बाय लाइन. ईमानदारी से बताइए, दोनों पढ़े हैं क्या चैप्टर?
Yes, ma'am.
पढ़े हैं. और निहारिका भी. ओके, पढ़े तो वेल एंड गुड.